You are listening to the Toxic Mold Podcast with Steve Worsley, the toxic mold expert and your number one source for mold consulting and mitigation in the USA. Let's dive into a brand new episode.
Before we get started on this episode, here's a not-so-short disclaimer. While all attempts have been made to verify the content provided in this podcast, neither the podcaster nor the producers assume any responsibility for errors, omissions, or alternative interpretations of the issues discussed here. All information stated in this podcast is the opinion of Steve Worsley. Steve Worsley is a mold specialist with over 25 years of experience in the construction and mold industry. The Toxic Mold Podcast is for information sharing purposes only. The views expressed are those of the podcaster and his alone. These views should not be taken as expert instruction or commands. While there may be references to medical conditions and symptoms, all podcast episodes are the opinion of Steve Worsley, and any medical questions or concerns shall be addressed with the appropriate licensed medical professional or professionals. As the podcaster refers to different mold types, please be aware that Steve Worsley is not a microbiologist, and questions concerning mold specifics should be answered by the appropriate professional. Steve isn't, nor does he offer any legal advice. For any legal advice, you must speak to a lawyer. The listener is 100% responsible for his or her own actions. You can check out Steve's books on Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for author Steve Worsley. You can also take Steve's mold education courses, such as Mold 101 and the Mycotoxin Prevention Kit, by going to cnccontractorservices.com. Again, check out his mold education courses at cnccontractorservices.com. Now, let's get to the episode.
Hello, you're listening to the Toxic Mold Podcast with myself, Steve Worsley. We have my wife, Cassandra. It's July, got past my birthday. It feels weird being 30, but you know.
Yes, it does. 30 plus 20. Sure, it does.
Yeah, the big half century. Anyhow, I don't know how or when we're going to get these microphones and all this stuff figured out, but hopefully we're figuring it out. We keep saying we have and then we don't.
Exactly. One day at a time with these things. They're pretty temperamental.
Yeah, it's just anyhow. So for our listeners, we're doing our best. Our audio sounds different. We apologize. So anyhow, today is a very touchy subject, and I've talked to you about this, and I'm not sure how I approach this with my clients because it's like you're making fun of their kids, but it's toxic mold and routine cleaning. How important is it to keep a clean home? So how do I, and just for our listeners to explain it, dust is a buffet for mold. So when I go in to do an inspection and it's really dusty, it's really cluttered, it's really dirty, how do I tell my clients like, hey, your house is filthy?
Well, to your point, it's like, how do you tell somebody they have an ugly baby? You don't.
Exactly. So hopefully this episode, and we're not picking on anybody in particular. I just think a lot of people, to them, they think maybe, you know, well, we have a cleaner come in every other week or whatever, so there's no issues. But it always comes down to like people that have cleaners, I still find a ton of dust.
Well, and this is an area I think that almost everybody can get better at. So to me, it's not so much a critique as it is an opportunity to get better. You know, the other day, I don't do any vacuuming in our household ever. And the other day I was looking at dog hair and I was like, oh, that really needs to be picked up. So I think I picked up a broom for the first time in maybe 2 years, 5 years? I don't know, maybe 7.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so then we started cleaning. But I think for a lot of people, they don't connect mold to dust or mold to a house that has a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, like I said, I just think it's really a difficult subject. And when you do cleaning that you normally wouldn't do, part of that is you're maybe going to see things you're not normally seeing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
You know, once again, for our listeners, you know, why is it so important? Well, dust, just to kind of explain it to our listeners, if you have a mold colony, you know, like on the wall behind me, it's sheetrock. It's painted, not very porous. But think about dust. How porous do you think dust is?
Pretty porous.
Yeah, it's like insulation.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy for, not that mold chew, but I'm just giving the visual. It's very easy for the mold to consume.
Yeah. Well, to say it chews, that's actually a pretty good comparison, because what it's the purpose of mold, and this is why it's naturally present, it's supposed to break down organic materials. Saying chew is not really that absurd, because that's what it's doing, is it's trying to chew through that dust and feed off of it.
Which is so much easier than, let's say, a hardwood floor.
Yeah, or like a 2x4 stud or a desk, or like I said, the sheetrock. It's dust. It's not dense enough. And it's very porous. For our listeners, think about trying to pour a cup of water. You lay a 2x4 down and you try to pour a cup of water, and you're waiting for the water to come through the other side of the 2x4. How much water do you think it would take?
A lot.
But if you had dust,
easy.
It's a couple drops.
Yeah.
And
easy.
It would come through it. So for our listeners, that's why it's so important to clean routinely, and mainly dust.
And when you say clean routinely, how often is routine?
Well, to me, routine would be, as far as dusting, every couple weeks.
And you mean dusting everything, like the ceiling fan where dust accumulates, the TVs, everything?
Yes.
Okay.
But if you were to pick and choose and you're like, okay, where am I going to be most focused on dusting? It would be in areas that are most likely to have mold concerns.
Okay.
So that would be bathrooms, laundry rooms, your kitchen, anywhere where there's a plumbing source.
Okay. So really it's every 2 weeks, especially the areas where there's likely to be moisture intrusion.
Exactly. So, going back to, I think a question a lot of our listeners would have is Steve telling us that if we don't do routine cleaning, it's going to lead to a mold problem? No, it's not going to lead to the mold problem. But if you do have a mold problem and you don't clean routinely, it's going to probably be further contaminated throughout the home.
Absolutely. But isn't it also not just dusting, but if somebody has lots of stuff in every room of their house, doesn't that prevent you from seeing if there's mold there?
Well, yeah, when we're doing an inspection, when we do inspections and I go into a home, and I don't want to use the term hoarders, but when people have lots of stuff everywhere, it's a very limited inspection. Think about going to a doctor and it's for whatever, high blood pressure, and you're wearing long sleeve shirt, a sweater, long pants. How does that doctor, I know this is not how it works, but how does that doctor do an examination?
He can, unless you take off the layers.
Exactly. For our listeners, if you're going to have an inspector come in, and even for yourself, if you're going to do routine inspections, you need to make sure you don't have a bunch of clutter. Absolutely.
And the person inspecting your home is not going to move the clutter out of the way.
Right. So when I do inspections, I have a pre-inspection letter I send to my clients, and it tells them, it starts with, can you follow the inspector around? Of course, a lot of people think, I'm just going to follow Steve around and see what he's seeing. If you follow me around, and just for our listeners, my inspections take all day. So we're talking 8 to 10 hours. If you follow me around and I have to explain everything to you, a 2,000 square foot home, I'm probably only going to get halfway through it.
Exactly.
So I cover that in my letter. Then I explain, make sure we have access to your crawl space. Make sure we have access to your attic. Everywhere where you have sinks, remove everything below the sink. Because if I open up a sink, so part of the inspection, and our listeners know this, I have tons of different tools that I use. So I'm not going to go through all of that. I run the plumbing fixtures. I'm checking for leaks. I'm using an infrared camera, moisture meters. Well, if I open a cabinet or below the cabinet, the doors, and there's a bunch of stuff in there, do you think I'm going to pull everything out?
No.
And for our listeners to understand, why aren't you going to do that? Well, what if someone has an heirloom vase that's from their great-great-grandmother from Haiti?
Yeah, liability.
And I break it. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be real thrilled with me. For our listeners, just understand that when you're going to have an inspection performed, to make sure there's access to all these areas. Because if there's not, it's a very limited inspection. Going back to the medical analogy.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody could do blood pressure if you have 3 sweatshirts on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they tried to, it's not going to be accurate, just like an inspection won't be accurate.
And so that's why it's important to be prepared for what's happening, whether that means preventing mold having easy access to food by dusting every 2 weeks, or if you're about to have a mold inspection, get your house ready for the inspection. Either way.
Yeah, I'd be careful, though. I do say in the inspection letter to not do a deep cleaning right before we get there. Because then if we end up doing testing, we don't have as much dust or it's not an accurate assessment of the home. Does that make sense?
It does, but is routine cleaning and deep cleaning the same thing?
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a deep cleaning, I think most people probably do that in the spring and the fall. Mm-hmm. But, I would caution for our listeners, I would not do a deep cleaning. I wouldn't put a fresh coat of paint. There are things like that I would not do if you know you're going to have an inspection.
Okay. So that makes sense. So then when people are thinking about this whole idea of routine cleaning, what are the best practices in general for people to adhere to with just not having dust and dirtiness be a contributing factor to mold growth?
Well, one of the things you can do is buy a HEPA vacuum, a certified HEPA vacuum.
Okay.
Now, I have clients that are like, we just bought a Meal, which is a brand name, really expensive vacuum. We don't even use that type of vacuum for remediation, but you want a certified HEPA vacuum. So to just explain to our listeners, I hear this all the time. Well, I'll go get a HEPA filter for my shop vac. It's usually the husband that says that. It's just a filter. It's not an actual certified HEPA vacuum. So everything you suck through that vacuum, you're just kicking back out of the exhaust. Our HEPA vacuums have a pre-filter. So there's like this bag kind of looking thing over the filter. Then it's a HEPA filter. Then there's a bag. Then there's an exhaust with a HEPA filter for the exhaust. So everything's getting filtered. If you can't do that, you can get a shop vac with a HEPA filter, but you put the actual unit outside. You can go to Amazon, buy a 25-foot hose. You can buy 2 or 3 if you need to with the couplers. Set the vacuum outside and then just run the hose inside.
Okay.
And use that. So the whole point of that is all the crap and debris, mycotoxins, mold, whatever is getting kicked outside.
Yeah. And you want it all outside, not staying in the home, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, so think about it for our listeners. So even if you buy the, high dollar Meal vacuum, if you're going to dump it out inside your kitchen, you kind of just re-exposed everything to the air in the home.
Not a good idea.
So make sure you take it outside to dump it out. As far as cleaners, the type of cleaners you can use, there's so many different types out there. There's no magic bullet cleaner that's just going to get rid of mold and mycotoxins, but what you're going to use for our listeners would be based on what they can handle, meaning some are sensitive to chemicals or smells.
Okay.
So you have like 7th generation.
Oh, that's right.
You have Benefect wipes. Some of my clients use tea tree oil. We as professionals, because once again, as we're doing it as professionals, our clients aren't inside of our containments being exposed to the chemicals. We have containments, negative air up. We use more harsh chemicals, like they're manufactured by Fiberlock, Biocide Labs. We use like Shockwave, IAQ, HP cleaner. HP stands for hydrogen peroxide. There's superstratum cleaners. There's tons of cleaners out there. And so as a professional, it's kind of like an air purifier. I get asked all the time, what type of air purifier should I get? Well, if you're trying to buy an air purifier to mask the mold and mycotoxins or get rid of them, that's not going to work. Same with cleaners. There is no cleaner out there that has some special patented chemical in it that's going to denature mold and mycotoxins.
Yeah, there's no one solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for our listeners, I just want them to understand there's not just a special silver bullet product that they can use. Just do your routine cleaning. You can use Lysol wipes. There's all sorts of stuff you can use.
And just one more question. If somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, routine cleaning, is Steve meaning an SPC? What is the difference between an SPC and what we've been talking about?
Well, an SPC, which I would not call that routine because it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. For the most part, for our listeners, you do want to do an SPC probably once a year or every other year. The reason we do an SPC, so for our listeners, SPC is small particle cleaning. The reason we're doing that is to get rid of all the particulates. But when we do it professionally, we're inside containments, negative air pressure. You can call it a HEPA sandwich, you can call it a HEPA pizza, whatever. Everybody's got a different name for it. But I'm not going to give every single step, but it's more or less a HEPA vacuum. Then you do a damp wipe. There's fogging involved with it to bring all the particulates down. For mycotoxins, you should use a humidifier, which sounds kind of odd, but we're in a controlled environment. The humidifier is going to bring all those mycotoxins down so we can get them vacuumed up or removed. You use microfiber towels. You can buy the cheap ones, which is what I would recommend. Throw them away when you're done. So you do a damp wipe and then a dry wipe. So there are mold bombs you can use. There's Superstratum has their deodor bombs is what they're called. Biocide Labs has mold bombs. But for our listeners, it's a lot of steps in a process that has to be done properly. So to answer your question, a deep cleaning is probably not an SPC.
Okay, so they're very different. So whereas you would say deep cleanings, what, every few weeks?
No, I'd say deep cleaning every couple months.
So every couple of months, then SPC.
Nobody has time to do,
Yeah.
But an SPC, always have that done after remediation.
Not before.
No.
Okay.
No, you're kind of defeating the whole purpose.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of the time they're so expensive, we don't typically do the SPC because we're talking, just so our listeners understand, 1,500 square foot home, you're $15,000, $20,000 at least.
Just for an SPC.
Yeah. And
Wow.
what we do for the SPC, it's different. Like if you just look in this office, could you imagine if I had to do an SPC in here?
Yeah, lots of stuff to
all
clean.
These die-cast NASCAR cars. I have a canvas that's porous. I mean, there's just imagine what it would take.
Yeah, lots of stuff. So at the end of the day, routine cleaning, what's your call to action for everybody?
Do routine dusting.
Okay.
When I say routine, make sure you do it every month, every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And if you're seeing a lot of dust build up, if you have an HVAC system, make sure you have changed the filters out, and maybe you got to change them more frequently. Then you're supposed to do it every 3 months. As far as changing filters. And a lot of my clients don't know that. They're like, we change them once a year like we're supposed to. It's supposed to be every 3 months.
Every 90 days.
Exactly. So we have all sorts of different things that we offer on the website. Consultations. They vary from a consultation for remediation, scope of work packages, VPAs, which is virtual property assessments. We have all sorts of stuff.
Absolutely. So one of the best things you can do is do a mold consultation before you hire anyone to do your in-person remediation.
Yeah, and even an inspection. Most of the time when my clients get to me, they've already gone through 2 or 3 people that don't know what they're doing.
Correct, which costs a lot of money.
Exactly. So we appreciate all you listeners. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If mold in your home has you up at night, wondering if your house is making you sick, it is time for a plan. With a mold consult, in other words, the mold environment assessment and evaluation plan from CNC Contractor Services, you will get a 90-minute strategy call with Steve Worsley, who will review your home environment, answer your toughest questions, and create personalized mold recommendations and next steps just for you. Don't let mold concerns take over. Take control. Visit cnccontractorservices.com to schedule your mold consult today so you can breathe easier in your home tomorrow.